To begin, let's go through the basic mechanics of the game and let's look at the controls to start with. So, to move around, you can either use the D-pad or the analog stick. It is totally up to you and down to your preference. Jump is on X, kick is on circle, punch is on square, and web is on triangle. You want to use R2 to swing. You want to use R1 to zip Spider-Man upwards if there's a roof or something that he can attach himself to above him. You can use L1 for targeting mode, and you can also use L2 to lock onto bosses specifically, but we'll cover that a little bit later. But that's the basics of controls. Also tied into the controls are Spider-Man's web moves, which he has 4 of. First one is up and triangle, which will do a web ball. The second is right and triangle, which does a web dome, which can be cancelled then and exploded by pressing punch or kick. The third is down and triangle, which does a web pull, which if when used on an enemy, it will pull them towards Spider-Man. And then there is left and triangle, which will activate web gloves. Now in the speedrun, realistically, you're only really going to be using the web gloves, web dome, and web ball. For web ball, you can actually just hold down up and triangle, and you'll constantly get this spam, which is very useful in some levels. There are many instances in this game where you're going to need to utilize the web dome move, and so to do this in the best way possible so that it pops almost as soon as you activate it, what you want to do is press right on the D-pad, triangle, and circle at the same time. And you can press triangle and circle at the same time, generally by just pressing your thumb on each one. You want to try and hit triangle first, so it kind of wants to be a motion like you can see there. You can see triangle slightly activated first, but if you hold down these 3 buttons, you'll constantly just pop web domes over and over again. So when it comes to combat in the game, you're going to really only be doing one combo in order to deal the most damage possible, which is the kick-kick-punch combo with web gloves on, as demonstrated there. To perform this combo consistently without dropping inputs and without cancelling any of the moves, you want to press kick twice and then spam the punch button as demonstrated there. So I'll do that again. Kick twice and then spam the punch button with that kind of rhythm. You can see there with the controller roughly how that works. If you want to practice this, I'd suggest going to this first level and just kind of practicing getting from one end of the building to the other, purely using combos. It's a good way to practice. One other thing to note with combat in this game is the red triangle that you'll see above enemies' heads. When you see that, that means you're in range and targeting them for either a web move, be it like a web ball or just a normal web, or a dive kick, which can be performed by jumping and then pressing circle or square when you're targeting an enemy. Now earlier when I said about holding down L2, this applies to bosses only and is really useful for these fights with Venom. So you'll see, what you want to do is hold down L2 and the camera will instantly lock onto Venom. So you know exactly where he reappears during these levels where he does go invisible during both of his fights. And it makes the fights a lot easier. This can be used in all bosses, be it Scorpion, Venom, or anyone else. When it comes to the movement of the speedrun, ideally you want Spider-Man to be doing one of 4 things. Either jumping, double swinging, single swinging, or zipping. Zipping being the fastest option. To perform a zip, what you need to be doing is while pushing forward, just press L2, and if you're close enough to a wall, Spider-Man will just zip to it. And you can also cancel during a zip to make sure you land on the floor before actually sticking to a wall, which obviously is then just a bit faster. You'll also notice that there are 2 types of swinging in there that we've talked about. We've got double swinging and single swinging. Single swinging is by far the fastest, and so anytime you can hit a single swing as opposed to a double swing, you will be going much faster, as demonstrated here. So earlier we talked about targeting mode, which is done by holding down L1. This is going to be useful later in the game when we explain some of the actual mechanics of the skips and the tricks that we use on specific levels. But what you may also not know is that by tapping L1, you can actually get Spider-Man to recenter the camera based on the way he is facing. So if you're ever moving around and you see that Spider-Man, if you don't actually give him time to stop and stand still, the camera won't actually move. So if you ever find yourself in a position where you need the camera to move so you can see what you're doing, just tap L1 and the camera moves with you. Let's talk about swing cancelling and the mechanics behind that. So swing cancelling is a mechanic that's built into the game that allows you to move much faster than a regular double swing by cancelling the second part of the swing and immediately swinging again into a single swing. Let me just demonstrate what I mean here. So you see here we do a regular double swing and that's relatively okay, but it's a much slower than actually we would want to be going. You'll see there, did you see how I cancelled the swing mid-air to actually swing faster? So we swing, cancel, swing. during the middle of the second animation there, the second half of the animation, just as he's about to do a double swing, he can actually move much faster than just doing 2 swings. Tied into the idea of swing cancelling is this idea that Spider-Man actually does carry momentum when he swings. So let me just demonstrate what I mean. So when you're swing cancelling and swinging between buildings or between floors or whatever it might be, you can actually see that Spider-Man has quite a big range of movement and allows you to change direction or move around in the air quite freely. The problem with this comes when you accidentally stick to a building. So here you can see I swung to the building, I got stuck. Now if I want to try and swing and continue swinging to the right hand side now, over here, what the problem is, if I press X now and push in a direction, you see how it took him a second or so before he actually started moving in that direction. Now that can be a problem because as soon as you stick to a wall, you kill all momentum that Spider-Man has, which makes it much harder to move as freely as before. This can really kill runs and really kill your speed, so you want to avoid doing this where possible. So this mechanic is probably easiest to see during Venom chase. So you can see here, as we chase Venom, one of the routes you can take is this route around buildings here. So you can see we want to swing cancel our way through, and actually using this freedom of movement, we can swing around buildings like this, to try and keep as far ahead as Venom as possible and keep him pushing forward during this level. If we demonstrate this again now, but stick to a wall, you'll see actually how hard it can be to recover from that position. You can see how stiff Spider-Man is. Stops him from swinging and moving in the positions you want. You lose a lot of height, and obviously you don't want to lose too much height in this game because a lot of this game is based around the idea that you want to stay above the floor, because otherwise you'll die.